All right. Welcome to the very first session of Achtung, Cthulhu by Modifius. This is a 2D20 game. And today I have with me Walter Peck, Slip, Rogue, Zypher, and Wanderer. And we are going to get started here. And I'm going to do a handout. Is that the one I want? No, it's not. This is the one I want. So let me know if you see this.
Yep.
The date is April 24th, 1939. This is session 1. 4 of you flew into Bombay a week ago. You remember the sweat from the humidity, but now there's a chill in your bones. Wherever you came from and wherever you're here, you have pushed forward. Now snow falls from the mountains, being driven up to Chaprara, where you landed only yesterday, and please excuse my pronunciation. The ride has been rough over dirt paths more than roads. Each of you have different reason for being here, led by Pilot Officer George Fairfax of the RAF. You have finally reached your destination in the kingdom of Sikkim. This place was near the last place on Earth, it seemed. It had none of the busy streets of Bombay, and certainly none of the luxuries of the West. The Brits had an interest in this place that they did just about everywhere in the East, from Africa to Asia. A light snow was falling, and a familiar face, at least to George, stood awaiting your arrival. And I'm going to switch the scene, and everybody can kind of role play their time getting here, what they're doing, how they were contacted to come here, either by being paid or being offered something, whatever. So kind of like an intro situation for those that wish it. And you should now see a different scene. And I'll let George go first as he gets off the Jeep that has brought him here from the local airfield. And you can see Zypher's character. How do you pronounce your name, Zypher?
Sartaj.
Sartaj, kind of waiting for you as you all arrive.
So I'm gonna start off with a little intro for
Yep.
the character, and then go into how he got here. Name's George Fairfax. I expect you're wondering how I got into my current line of work. Growing up, my future was laid out before me by my father, Harrow, Oxford, and then the Royal Navy. I followed the first two parts well enough, but then I rather derailed things by running off and spending a few years travelling the world. My father eventually found me and dragged me back to Blighty to join the Navy, but during my travels I'd picked up a love for aeroplanes, so I further enraged the old boy by joining the Royal Air Force. That was 5 years ago. These days he's a little too busy brooding over the news for the continent to be angry with me. He's preoccupied with the communists, but it's Germany that really worries me, and I'd know better than most. You see, soon after joining the RAF, I was recruited into the Secret Intelligence Service, or SIS for short. Speaking fluent German, I've been involved in a few intelligence gathering operations, and the pieces of the picture I've seen worry me. Germany's annexed Austria, and now they're taking Czechoslovakia piece by piece, all the while building up a huge army and navy. Also, I've heard some of the recent news coming out of Germany. If you ask me, Hitler is a bully, a nasty, violent thug. Sooner or later we're going to have to stop him by force, and the sooner Chamberlain sees that, the better. In the meantime, I do my job. It's not glamorous, and sometimes not very honourable, but if it keeps people like Hitler in check, it's all worth it. George has been sent here. His mission is to make contact with a member of, I believe, the Chinese resistance. And Sartaj is an old climbing friend from his time touring the world, kind of mooching around the world, is going to be his path to the contact, I believe. So we see George getting out of the Jeep. He's wearing some fairly smart clothing, but not as smart as his avatar shows. And I expect actually he's wearing sort of a partial RAF uniform at the moment. And as he gets out the Jeep, he nods to the others in there and says, my friend is here. And he says, "Ha, Sartaj, you old rogue. How you doing?" And I guess over to the next person.
Ladies first.
Or Zypher. Why don't you go Zypher since you got talked to?
Okay. Cool. I just sure. When Jeep pulls up the village road, you see a short, diminutive man, maybe no taller than like 5'6", 5'7". He seems to be, wearing kind of a little rundown toned clothing, but he has a kind of a fedora-like hat that is worn off kilter, with a strap that is underneath his chin. The rest of the clothing is nothing remarkable, blends in very well with the surrounding. It's a cheap mix of wool, cotton, and it all seems to be hand sewn. The colors are all faded. There is some greens, maroons, and browns in there. But he is definitely bundled up for the weather he is in. The individual you're looking at as the Jeep pulls up has his back towards the road, and he's looking up at the mountain in the background, and he seems to be muttering something to himself. Sartaj's own mental dialogue goes something like this. Strange times indeed that Master George has reached out to me after so long. He wishes to speak to a Chinese spy, but I do not trust the Chinese. They wish to usurp the rule of the kingdom and try and annex Sikkim for themselves, while the rest of India is busy fighting the British and trying to push them out. They're not all bad. Definitely not Master George, a good friend of mine. But the times are strange indeed. Seems to be some unrest in Europe. I do not know if that unrest will spread and bring the flames all the way out here. But if the Chinese are involved, and if George is making his way back to these lands after such a long time, then something is afoot. Something definitely not good for the people of this land. I pray to you, Devta, protect my way. Help me help my friend find his way. Just then the Jeep pulls up and out steps George, kind of calling out to Sartaj, and Sartaj turns around. Master George! Jolly good to see you, jolly good! And he comes kind of rushing over to shake his hands.
Nice.
That's it for me.
After George steps out and greets Sartaj, a woman dressed in practical traveling clothes steps from the vehicle and removes a scarf from atop her long blonde braid. She's attractive, but the most striking feature is a patch over her left eye. She looks around. A look of surprise crosses her face as she sees Sartaj. A flit of recognition. The name I go by is Lina Winter. Not long ago, I was called by a different name, Helena Lefroy. It was an unacknowledged fact that my father is Louis Renaud. Yes, the famous French tank and weapon manufacturer. He always made sure that my mother lived comfortably, though he never called me his daughter. My university education was paid for entirely, and he took me under his wing as an intern of sorts, a personal assistant at Renault. Many thought he was grooming me as future leadership, which is unusual for a woman. In all honesty, I loved it there. I loved the science. I loved meeting important people from all over the world. Until that meeting with the Germans. I don't speak enough German to understand the substance of that meeting, but I did hear my name. And after that meeting, everything changed. But to speak of all of that now, of the strangeness and horror, it requires more fortitude than I feel at this moment. But I fled Louis. I fled France. And now I wear a patch over my left eye. The occult became my new obsession. I traveled where I could afford to, and I made some interesting discoveries. Strangely, Sartaj was my guide on an expedition. But I fear that my father is still searching for me, and finding refuge from him is just as important as my other pursuits. The Brits, they have promised me asylum, citizenship, in exchange for my cooperation in certain matters, and I am happy to provide it. As that flit of recognition passes over her face, she steps forward next to her British friend or acquaintance and says, you are also acquainted. It is Sartaj, is it not?
Madam Lina, it has been quite a while since I've seen you in these parts. It is a coincidence that you know Master George as well. Welcome to my humble village.
This is where you are from. How strange that fate has brought us together again. And she sort of holds out her hand to shake it.
Sartaj shakes it and also bows his head. Yes, indeed. It is. I am at a loss for words. To see old acquaintances again in such strange times.
George chuckles and says, "Well, that's a rum do. Who'd expected that? You two knew each other." And he turns to the other two in the jeep and says, "Anyone else here happen to know Sartaj?"
Go ahead, Rogue.
I guess I'll do my little intro first. The name's Frank. I was a cop in New York City for over 15 years. Moved on to the FBI for the bigger paycheck and to get out of hell. But hell isn't really a place you can run from. It's more like a place that follows you around. Like smoke from the cigarettes and whiskey. It just kind of sticks to you no matter where you take it. I've seen a lot of horrible things in my life, and I've seen the worst in humanity, what people do to each other. It doesn't really surprise me anymore. After years of service to the United States of America, I started to get burnt. The murders just made me numb. I don't have any kids. My ma always wanted me to have some so she could have a grandkid, but I I never wanted to bring one into this mess of a world. She lived in Italy, and I came over to say goodbye to her. She never wanted to follow me to the States, and after coming to Italy, I can see why. She's dead now. Sorry I could never bring you a grandkid, Ma. I went on vacation after she died, started to travel around Europe. I have a little bit of love for the occult and the mystical things in the world. And as much as I want to believe in God, I find it hard to see why he would like to sit back and watch all the horror that he lets go on. During my travels, I got a call from my old boss in the FBI. Said he needed me to look at something while I was overseas. I was in the perfect spot to start a new investigation. While I'm here, I might as well make some money and meet some fine new folks from around the world. I know one thing. I'm gonna need some goddamn alcohol, though, that's for sure. So when George, I think, asks him a question, he's taken a sip from a flask and puts it back in his jacket, and raises his eyebrows from underneath his hat and says, no, this is my first time meeting Sartaj.
And George smiles and says, well, you have the great pleasure still ahead of you then. Sartaj, this is Frank. And,
pleasure to meet you, Frank.
Frank tips his hat and nods to him. How do you do?
And then he turns to the last person in the Jeep and says, and this is Luke. Unless you two have already met. And he smiles.
Luke, the last of the group to get out, has the looks of the German's poster child for the Aryan race. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed. Looks like the rugged upbringing of rural life, but that could not be farther from the truth, as Luke was someone who would be called most commonly a Boer, born and raised in Africa. He suffered from the same affliction as his family did, that of wanderlust, leaving behind Belgium a long time ago to help stake out a claim in the provinces and territories of the Congo and what would eventually become South Africa. As he grew up after the Great War, as it was called back then, he joined the Belgian militia and was one of their long-range scouts. And the deeper he pushed into the jungle, the more odd things he would find in those villages that opposed Belgian and Dutch rule. And those things slowly led him on a worldwide mission to explain the unexplainable, and that had led him to India. Though as he looked up at the snow, something he had never seen in his life, despite his European heritage, he wondered if this was the right path he was currently on. And as he gets out of the Jeep, he kind of slings a long rifle over his shoulder and pats the pistol on his side. Oh, what am I doing here? This is not quite what I expected when someone told me I would be in a winter-like atmosphere. I am Luke Tambo. It is good to see you all.
Luke, this is Sartaj. Sartaj will be our guide. And how the devil are you anyway? Been, 4 years?
It has been a long time.
I think he was talking to Sartaj.
Yeah.
I think it is more like 6, Master George.
6 now? Oh, yes, it must be. It must be 5 since I joined the... Yes! 6 years. My word, and you don't look a day older.
It's the mountain air and the protection of Devta who keeps us safe.
So, George, now that we are here, perhaps we can do away with some of the secrecy as to why we have been brought here.
And so Taj, you've prepared a room that where there's no more. Well, this is a pretty remote village northeast in Sikkim, and for a while there were some British intelligence officers here that had made one of the houses their base, and they abandoned it a while ago, and you've prepared it for George his arrival when he wired you some weeks ago, and so you can head inside to discuss if you want. The village you barely see any people. There's just a few people like kind of looking down the street, what you could call more of a dirt road than an actual street. And in kind of the background, you see the Himalaya mountains behind you, just kind of peeking out. This is extremely rough terrain. That much is clear. You did take a flight from Bombay to the intermediate town, and then to here into a small airfield. But you know that this is going to be a very rough terrain regardless. But you do have some comfort of this old house that was used as a old British intelligence office in Sikkim in what will be North India.
Before we discuss more, let us get out of the streets. We must not tarry here too long. One never knows who's listening. There is a old building, an old cottage that some officers used some time a while back. We could retire there, rest yourselves. The journey must have been difficult, and what lies ahead, if we are to travel in these parts, is going to be even more difficult. Come, let me show you the way.
And I don't know what our cover is, but if it's something like a climbing expedition, then at this point George will start talking about mountaineering, the best mountains, etc., in just a moderately loud voice. Sorry, you were going to say something, Snip?
Oh no, she just she shrugs and starts to take her 2 packs out. One that kind of clangs a bit as if there's various metal implements in it, and another one that she handles quite gingerly as she puts it over her other shoulder.
Do you need some help with that, my lady?
I am fine. She hands him the one that clangs, but she holds on to the other. This one needs sensitive handling. I shall carry it myself, but thank you very much.
Nice Sartage. Frank starts to light up a cigarette, and he says, "You said this place was under the protection of, who was that again?"
The British, of course. The British, all of India is under British protection, and he kind of gives George a wink when he says that.
George smiles and kind of shakes his head ruefully.
But protection only goes so far. We are now in the remote areas, and out here it is every village and every villager for themselves. While there is turmoil at the center of the country, the Chinese do tend to send people over the border to see if there is some weakness or land that can be annexed. At the same time, there is rumors of outsiders walking amongst the people here.
Yeah.
It is all cloak and dagger. I don't know much. But, Mr. Frank, may I make a suggestion? If you are here, I would recommend you do not smoke those cigarettes for a little while. You would want your lungs to be in the best shape they can be for what lies ahead, if I am to be your guide.
Oh yeah, of course. And He puts the cigarette out, his thumb sticks back in his pocket.
Yeah, just to give you guys kind of a side here, just kind of realize where you are. I should have put a map and a handout, but if you look at how India is topographically located, you're at the very, 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 very north part, in between Nepal and Bhutan. So at the time, it's not technically a part of India where you are. It's the Kingdom of Sikkim. But you're very far north, and kind of all these, you're extremely close to China as well. So you're very in a very different world from what you would consider modern day India, at least. So just to remind you guys. But go ahead.
How much do we, as we're kind of, I guess, heading towards this house and heading in there now, how much do we know about each other, and and what's our cover story here?
Well, not sure you technically have a cover story of why you're here. With this being such a remote area, George can just say we're a part of, the British, this is RAF business, and you just go. How you knew each other, that's kind of up to you. So your superior, Captain Puffrey, has assigned you this task, and he basically has contacted Luke, Frank, and Lena, and Sertaj, for that matter, through you, to put this expedition on. How everybody else was recruited and for what reasons is completely up to you guys. But for whatever reason, you've gotten contacted by the British Special Intelligence Agency, and you have been recruited for this mission for various purposes. Maybe you were doing it for money, maybe you're just for whatever reason that you personally have. That's particularly for Luke, Frank, and Lena, and Sertaj, for that matter, except I assume he does it more for friendship with George and because he's in the area. But yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think he would know that Lena, some of her expertise background, she's looking for, British citizenship, and he probably knows that, and he probably knows that she's got some experience with engineering and demolitions.
Cool.
I would think maybe the FBI and maybe the British intelligence or something might have some link. So I think George and Frank might be a little, at least have met already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
you probably all met in Bombay, at the very least. You have a couple weeks of knowing each other, as that's probably where you all kind of came together to go north, because there's probably very few flights that, especially coming up here, going into the middle of India is one thing, but all the way up here, one flight maybe a month comes up here for whatever reason. It's usually all, British military business.
And I think the cover was probably left up to me, and whether we even had one. So I probably said it's kind of it was official RAF business, and then I've kind of spread the rumor as we've gone up here that actually it's a side venture of George's, and he's off to get rich in the mountains. Brought along some friends. Just another sort of younger son of a rich family, and well, in his case, middle, and just wasting government money trying to get rich on his own account. So yeah, you guys, as you got to know George, he's a little bit cagey about his past. I think he and Lena probably ran into each other a few years ago during his travels, and I think probably him and Frank more recently in a sort of slightly more professional basis. Do you think he and Luke would have met?
Honestly, unless he was in Africa it's unlikely. He's definitely had interactions with British military through their, empire within Africa, South Africa, things of that nature. But he's spent the bulk of his life in Central and South Africa, mostly working with colonial militias and protecting the various, commercial interests there.
It's quite possible that George spent some time in South Africa, but they may not have actually run into each other.
Talking? Did I lose?
Yeah, we've been talking.
Yeah, we've been talking.
It might be quite fun to say that they never actually met each other, but it turns out they know several of the same people.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you were gallivanting around Africa, I'm sure at some point he either, along the same vein that he would providing some sort of, what would I say, advanced scouting or, being a guide.
Cool.
Slipper, you there?
You there, Slip?
Hold on a second.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah.
All right. Can I somebody say something?
Yeah, can you hear
Okay,
me?
now I can hear you now.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Cool.
Jackbox.
There's no service in the Himalayas.
Okay. So we'll kind of gather together in this house, and George will say, well, now we're here, or, well, most of the way to where we're going. First of all, I just want to say on behalf of Her Majesty's government, thank you all for coming. I know you all have your reasons for being here, but well, I suppose you're keen to find out what we're doing. Sartaj, would you like to tell us where we're going, and then I'll tell the people why?
Yes. It's, you said a Chinese, what do you say it was?
Yeah,
Chinese resistance, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the idea is that you'll be meeting a member of the Chinese resistance across the border into Bhutan.
Okay. Yeah. So, we are meeting someone from the Chinese resistance. They are fighting the Japanese that are encroaching their lands from the east. I do not trust the Chinese, but that is just me. But the location this individual has picked to meet is remote. It will take a little while to get there. I understand why they would have picked some place like that. It is difficult to get to without a guide like me. What this individual, this resistance fighter has to share with us, I am not sure. But I do know the time is drawing near and we must prepare, get a good night's rest, for what awaits us is difficult terrain.
Yes, and well, the exact nature of the intelligence I'll be receiving doesn't really need to worry you. But what you do need to know is that we'll be facing a dangerous journey, and that all your skills will possibly be needed. We all know about what's brooding in Europe, but here, well, China has its share of troubles as well, and as you can see, we are very close to them here, but also very much on the borders of British territory. It's everything's interconnected in the world these days. The world is smaller than it's ever been, and so much is connected. The struggle here, let's say, isn't completely divorced from the struggle in Europe, or may not be forever. I think that's enough for you to gather something of why Her Majesty's government might be interested. We'll make contact with this agent. I will receive the intelligence we are going to receive. We'll all make our way back, hopefully without incident. And then everyone will receive the rewards which they've been promised. And also, as soon as we get back to Bombay, the first round is on me. He smiles.
That's the best thing I've heard of.
And once we're back in Bombay, Frank, you'll be able to smoke again.
Oh, thank God.
But I think you'll find that the Himalayan air, once you get used to the sort of rather searing effect on the lungs, you'll find it remarkably clearing.
It sounds horrible to me.
He smiles. He says, I think the fresh air will be rather more to Luke's taste.
This is true. It is something I live for, the outdoors, even if it is quite cold.
Oh yes, and it will get colder still before we get where we're going. Now, I believe everyone was instructed to bring warm clothes.
Yes. Are there other supplies we need to pick up? Foods? And how much? How long do we expect to be traveling?
Sartaj has already made those arrangements. The trip should take 3 days there, 3 days back. It does depend on your travel arrangements. There are some parts of this trip that potentially you could take the Jeep. It might be tough. Sartaj has a map of where you're going, but he hasn't been into Bhutan exactly where this area is. So he is. I think he's originally from Nepal. He's just in this area to help you navigate the mountains. But you do have a map of where you're going with some trails and things like that. But this is pretty much the wilderness. So.
Well, George says, Sartaj, I believe you've gathered supplies for us.
Yes, it is in the other room. There is food, water, rope, some herbal medicines to help with the altitude as we climb. I do understand that you will not have much time to acclimatize yourself to this altitude. But do not worry, I am here to help. We shall take it slow to begin with. You might feel some dizziness and blurred vision as the day progresses during the climb, but it is normal. If you find yourself exerting, please let me know and we will take a break.
Thank you, Sartaj. And George turns to the others and says, you really couldn't wish for a finer guide. I'm sure he's made excellent preparations and, well, I just suggest we all place ourselves entirely in his hands. And George goes into the next room and starts, he sort of takes he pulls out a warm coat and starts, pulls a backpack out from the supplies and starts kind of stuffing stuff into it.
So it's midday roundabouts. Are you going to take off today, or are you going to maybe wait until the next day? It's up to you.
Do I know how far this meeting point is? Can I roll something to determine how long it would take?
You already know that it should take 3 days on foot. You've been to pretty much where the border of Bhutan is, which is about a day away, and you think that you could probably take the Jeep some of the way. It's really, really rough terrain though, and the Jeeps, at this day and age, even though they're Jeeps, they don't have huge clearance, and off-roading is not much. You would break your Jeep, but you should be able to cut off some time maybe by using the Jeep. But by foot, it's 3 days. If you make good time through the mountains, good weather, et cetera, et cetera. It's lightly snowing now, so it's no problem.
Yeah, I would say knowing the terrain and knowing the fact that everybody else in the party has just arrived, he's going to give them the evening and the rest of the day and the evening to just prepare themselves. And at least, like, it's not much, but at least get used to the altitude before we start. So Sartaj would say, like, let's start early the next day as just as daybreak, so we have maximum light and they get at least some rest from their journey. He would, if anybody tries to stay up, he would, advise them against it. He would, instead of Frank, who might be wanting to get a drink, Sartaj would give him some, not alcohol, but some local elixir that would help him, kind of, like, just scratch the itch, but at the same time, not put him at a disadvantage of what's going to come up.
Oh, Frank would definitely be trying to sneak out that night and smoke a cigarette. Outside somewhere.
I can't breathe this air, it's too thin. I need a cigarette.
So are we taking the jeep part of the way?
I don't know the route, but I think if we can take it a little bit of the way, it might be advantageous. As long as there's somewhere to hide it, Sartaj.
Yes, we should be able to take it to some part, and along the way we might be able to find a good place to hide it. But it is not going to be of much use. You will see that the roads are very rough, very, very rough. It is almost bone shaking, as you say, George. I've heard you say that before. But we shall take it, whatever time we can make by not hiking with all our heavy packs. And when he says that, you can see there's one pack which is way larger than everybody else's pack. And that's clearly, like, based on the clothing of the pack and the way it's set up, it's clearly Sir Taj's pack. He's definitely carrying, and George would know this. That's how, mountain guides in this region operate. They always carry the heaviest loads. It's kind of almost a part of the culture here.
I will go take a look at the vehicle and make sure that it is as roadworthy as it can be made.
Yes, Madam Lena, that would be very helpful, yes.
Thank you very much. It's the further we can travel in that thing, the further we put off having to actually exert ourselves at this altitude. It causes quite a strain if you've not had time to acclimatize, and we're only getting minimal time. So thank you very much.
She'll nod and grab a flashlight out of her pack and the heavy clanking bag of tools and go out and start popping the hood, getting underneath the Jeep, just making sure everything, if there's anything that looks loose, tightening it, that sort of thing.
Yeah, why don't you give me a mechanical engineering roll? That's your focus. So if you go on your sheet and just click that mechanical engineering highlighted, it should roll it for you. Difficulty is 1. And then you can use a reason with that.
And okay, so
if you go and on your sheet,
and I keep the dice on 2, right?
Yeah, just keep the dice on 2 unless you want to buy.
And then click on the focus.
The focus should already be check marked, right?
It wasn't.
It wasn't? Did you click? Okay, so if you look at your skills and you go to the mechanical engineering, if you click on that,
gotcha.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which way you do it, but
okay.
Yeah, and then select on your drop down reason, and then you can make the roll. So that should be 2 successes. So you generated 1 momentum. So we'll do that. So yeah, you do find there is a issue with the Jeep. Kind of something loose underneath it that you think of, kind of like with the shocks. If you hit something hard enough, it might break the axle and you would be stranded. So you're able to fix that before you kind of even get going. And you know that if it's as rough of terrain as people were saying, that you should probably take taken some attention to that, and you're able to get it worked on. It takes like about a half an hour to fix.
Yeah, she fixes that, spends a little bit more time just checking it out, making sure there's nothing else, and then comes in, hands smeared in grease, little greasy marks on her face, kind of using a rag to wipe her hands off. Well, I think it is as ship as she is going to become.
Frank will, like a smirk on his face, and he's like, well, there's a dame for you.
She thinks for a second. A dame, that means a woman, yes?
Yes.
Very observant of you, and she winks.
Are you winking or blinking? I am not sure.
She laughs at that, too.
George chuckles at that one as well, and says, "In my experience, that's a difference you really want to be very sure of." And says, and then turns to Lena and says, "Thank you very much. Your skills are appreciated. We would not want to, be stranded in the middle of the countryside we're going to. We'll be walking out anyway, but we do want to ride back, particularly if we, you never know when something's going to go wrong, and you'll have to come back in a hurry, shall we say."
She nods. It does happen. Sometimes a speedy exit is necessary.
Yes.
Sataj, are you expecting... Well, and she looks over at George, as beloved as the British Empire is, sometimes not everyone sees it that way. Should we be wary of any hostility?
There should be no hostility against outsiders this far out. Plus, traveling with me makes it seem that we are on an expedition, and the locals generally do not take too much interest in the wild things that the outsiders do, like climb mountains that are way too tall. No. If there is going to be any trouble, it'll be as we get closer to the border. The country of Bhutan is not always friendly to the people of this kingdom. But we are still in the wild, and nature always finds a way to kill you if you're not prepared or if you're not careful. So no, it will not be people that we should be worried about, but it is the land on which we travel. Follow my lead, and stay close, and we should be all right.
All right, then. I will do what I can to clean up and get rest. Where are we bunking up? And she kind of looks around, the only female in the group.
I think there should be enough rooms for everyone. It's a large enough like cottage.
Yeah, there would be like bunks and have another room where she could have her privacy.
I think for the night, Frank would probably, you can tell he's probably uneasy, or just because of the fidgetiness of, alcoholism and smoking and stuff. So he's trying not to smoke, but it's going to happen. Like he's going to sneak out during the night at least once.
If you want to try to keep from smoking or having a drink, you can try.
Yeah, that'd be probably a good role.
Let's try. Let's see. How about it's gonna be will and fortitude, discipline. Will, discipline. There you go.
Will and discipline. So I'm gonna click on.
So you would click on. You can
will
click
first.
No, you would click on. So go down to your skill. You can click on resilience, and discipline's a focus, so it's really resilience. So go ahead and click resilience, and then pick will from your drop down. And then you can roll your 2d20. If you want to spend a momentum for an extra dice, you may.
No successes. No, I won't spend it.
Yeah, you're definitely going to sneak a couple drinks and a couple cigarettes.
Yeah, during the night, he's out there watching around, trying to be all sleuth and watching the neighborhood and stuff. But then he just comes back, looks at a few pictures, and he'll pass out. Unless somebody else interacts with him.
George will, once everyone's comfortable, says, I know that some of you may be wondering why your skills are necessary for this mission. The truth is that the contact we're meeting, there is a likelihood that German agents are not necessarily aware that we're trying to meet him, but are aware that he's meeting someone and are interested in the same information we are. Once we get to the place we're meeting him, a temple, I believe, we should all be alert. And we may need to call on some of your more particular skills. And he sort of looks around the room, and he says that, and he sort of looks at Lena and says, although in your case your other skill set is one that we will save for emergencies.
She laughs. Unfortunately, it is needed more often than I would like, but it is better to be prepared.
Yes, absolutely. Well, now you know the bad news. The mission won't be as easy as perhaps some of you hoped, but it should at least be more interesting. Please take the opportunity to get a good night's sleep, and we'll get going early in the morning.
So you'll notice, Frank is reading a book on the German language.
Nina will actually say something to Luke. She'll say, "Parlez-vous français?"
No,
He's
madame.
Belgian, right?
He's Belgian, but he's not that side of Belgian. I sprechen Sie Deutsch and a little bit of Afrikaans.
I see. She points to the rifle. May I?
You may.
What kind of rifle is it?
It's you'll notice, I don't know how well Lena knows her weapons, but he has very distinct American weapons, a Springfield and a 1911.
So look at it. Look down the barrel, kind of look at the sight. This sight looks good. I prefer the Lee Enfield myself, but everyone has different tastes.
On the open plains of the Congo, it is better to have something with a little more long range, though I understand in the jungles it can be a little cumbersome at times, but my father was a fan of the Mauser. He used it against, ironically, the British during the Boer War, and I had some American traveling companions for a while, and they convinced me of the superiority of the Springfield, and it has made me a convert.
I am working on a little something. Perhaps on the way I will have time to complete it. She is kind of looking along the side. Something to improve even this. But she just hands the gun back. But it is late, not for tonight.
No, if you're going to do something to my baby, at least tell me what it is first.
An improved sight that I am working on.
It might be something I can try, but when I aim down the sights, I have both of my eyes open so I can see what is going around in the entire field of fire.
Yes, that is good, but some things are very far away. We will have time to experiment, I think.
If there's any time to experiment, I suppose it is in northern India.
Well, I mean, once you're at the top of some of these mountains or some of the high passes, you can see for miles. The air's so clear. It's really rather wonderful. But I'm going to take an early night. Hope everyone has a good night's sleep, and I'll see you early in the morning. He nods to everyone, heads off.
Yes, good night to you all. And she kind of shakes everyone's hand, and when she shakes Frank's hand, she leaves a couple of French cigarettes in there and gives him a smile.
He winks.
Tell me, Sartaj, how good is your tea here?
And Sartaj gives like a wily smile. It is very good indeed, Mr. Luke. It's rich, and milky, and sweet. We do mix some local spices. Would you like me to make you a cup?
That would be very kind. I wish to have a drink to warm the bones while I look over any maps you may have of this area before we begin our trek.
Yes, come with me, and he'll take you to a small anteroom. These are some of the maps. They are at least a few years old, and the terrain does change because of the snow and the rains. We do get a lot of rains during the monsoons. But most of the big, you can any kind of points a few locations on the map, waypoints and landmarks, they do remain. Let me be like, please go over this at your leisure while I go make you some tea. And he kind of shuffles along into the kitchen, and you can hear him move some steel utensils around and start a small like a wood-based fire. And he seems to be humming some like folk tune to himself as he's making tea.
Luke kind of looks over the maps and the topography and the types of terrain that he expects to counter and just kind of mumbles to himself, we will see what we will see. And with that, he kind of spends the rest of the evening sipping on tea and kind of going over things before turning in for the evening and putting on several extra blankets on his bed, as this is not the temperature he's used to.
All right. Everyone eventually falls asleep. Very, very quiet night. Besides the wind that kind of rattles against the door and the windows of this home. Let's do this. someone get roll 1d3 for the weather condition of today. 1, calm, 2, light snow, 3, heavy snow. So you can just do that in Foundry with, I think it's a /R. I'll just do, let's see, yeah. So that's, just /R 1d3. Whoever would like to do it, go ahead.
Rogue, do you want
to? Heavy snow. All right.
All right.
So so Tyler's, you're up first, and you kind of peek out the window there. You kind of open the shutter and look outside, and your heart kind of drops a bit as there is just probably 6 inches of snow on the ground already, and it's just the sun has just come up.
Oh no. Devta, protect us on our journey today. This is not a good omen. This is quite ill. And then Sartaj kind of goes around, he sees people are still dozing, and it's still not fully light out. The sun is just cresting the mountain. And he goes and knocks on Lena's door and wakes George up. It is not good. It is not good at all. We must make haste. We got a lot of snow over the night. Our going will be very difficult, very difficult.
Blast! Well, there goes the idea of using the Jeep.
Well, actually, so one of my talents is basically I can come up with a temporary jury rig for things that applies a talent to someone or that they wouldn't normally have. Like whoever's driving, I could give them off-road from my success yesterday. So while the vehicle themselves might not be quite designed for it, you're adept at handling them in rough terrain. You reduce the difficulty of any vehicle terrain tests you attempt by 1. So that's how I would interpret her success with the engineering before, because that's what that talent is designed to do, give a temporary
nice.
bonus. Does that sound right, Ted?
I'm just reading it real quick.
You found some snow chains.
Okay, you construct unusual. You're talking about prototype? That talent of yours? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, okay. When you do that, select a talent from the talent section. What talent are you picking?
I think off-road is kind of the most applicable. Or what's still in control? Yeah, I think it would be off-road instead of still in control.
Yeah, I think that's for sure. Apply its benefit to the device. Anyone using this device can apply the talent to their skill tests. After the device is used, roll 1 combat dice plus 1 additional for each use before this one. Okay, yeah, sure, absolutely.
So whoever's doing the driving, it reduces the difficulty of the terrain test by 1.
Okay, cool.
I would say driving, it would be, in this case, an agility, and or would it be coordination? I would say agility plus, what does driving fall under? Let me see. Does that fall? Vehicles, yeah, vehicles for sure. Yeah, so cars if you have it. So agility, vehicles if you need to figure out who's the best.
Yeah, I've just got a 1. Anyone got any? Although my agility's 10.
Definitely not me.
Well, if your agility is 10, you still might be the best person. I have high coordination, but...
My agility's 10, let me see here, and yeah, vehicle's 0.
I have vehicles 2, and I have agility 7.
You might be the best.
No, I think it's going to be whoever has the highest agility.
Agility.
It's probably going to be George with the 11. Probably to be the best, honestly.
All right, go for it, George.
Okay, so roll vehicles.
Yeah, hold on one second though. So let's change the scene. Why can't I grab my watch? There we go. Oh, yeah, one sec. So let me switch this. Activate. Yeah, you start out early and the Jeep is covered. You have to kind of clear it out to get the snow out of it. And you start off, it's pretty packed with the 5 of you in there. It's really only meant for probably 4. And George gets behind the wheel and takes off. Let me give you a little...
just imagining Sartaj just kind of squeezed up in the middle of the back.
Yeah. So there's ambiance. And the snow is just pouring down at this point. Sometimes it lightens up, but it's getting no better that you can tell. So yeah, George, let's see how far you can get. To get where you were normally is, I would say, a 2. So you're only going to do a difficulty 1 because you have off-road currently. So to get further, each difficulty more that you get, you instead of you can take momentum and park the car, or you can keep going further. So that's basically how it goes. So I'll let you decide.
Let's give it a go. Do I need to decide that before I roll, or?
No, you can. Yeah, you decide that after you roll because you won't even know.
Okay.
No, that's not the right roll. I don't think that's just 1 die. You're at least supposed to roll 1 more.
Okay.
2d20.
Sorry.
Yeah, just roll 1 more die at the least. And
Sorry. I took the number of dice down for the difficulty.
Oh yeah. No.
It should have been.
Just roll 1 more. So we'll just take that 5 as the. So that's 2 successes. 2 successes versus 1 difficulty. So you at least got as far as you want. You can get a little further if you want on the Jeep, or you can park it and take 1 momentum.
I think we'll park it and take 1 momentum because George is being very careful, kind of narratively being very careful not to damage the Jeep.
Yeah, so how does it look as you kind of go over this very narrow path on the Jeep, and not even really, you would have to back. It's hard to even turn around. It would take forever, right? To even turn around. You're going over like small rocks and very narrow and that sort of thing. How does that look?
Yeah, so George is doing the driving, but he's actually taken quite a lot of advice from the others, particularly Sartaj and Lena, about the best way to kind of spare the Jeep and kind of where Sartaj thinks rocks are hidden under the snow, because snow kind of lumps up and you can't always tell whether there's something solid underneath it. So he's taking advice from them, and he's just taking it super carefully. So he's not really traveling a lot faster than he'd be traveling on foot, but just kind of taking it very easy and at least sparing them the exertion.
Yeah.
So that's very much what he's doing. Is kind of picking his way up there. So not so much kind of really jolting in the sense of kind of rattle, but quite a lot of bump through the snow, and then little bits of being very careful not to wheel spin on the stuff, and yeah.
All right.
Very slow and cautious.
Let's take a quick break since Zypher went anyway, and about 5 minutes, bio and whatnot, and come on back.
Cheers.
I like tying. I like the drop down with the skills, and then you drop down with one of your attributes. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would like the one things for the macros I want to create is I want to create your weapon macros, like so you just don't have to go on your sheet to shoot your gun or use your knife or whatever, right? Those things particularly, skills that would be hard. You would have to do something kind of like in Roll20 where you have a big list of things, and that's kind of a pain because you're going to want to look at your skills basically to know. Am I good at this or not? That sort of thing. So, but yeah, the weapon ones I want to create, so you don't have to do that from your sheet. So at the very least, you can just keep it on that one tab.
Yeah, that's so cool. I wanted to do that in my newest edition was to tie like 2 separate abilities to each skill. I think it makes sense a lot of times, like climbing, for instance. And like right now I have it based off of dex. But sometimes strength and dex is
right.
Makes more sense.
Yeah, there are systems that like make it very flexible, like this one, and the ones I think of originally are like the World of Darkness games. They're all kind of like that. There's nothing necessarily tied to each other. So.
Oh, yeah.
Who's going to be the first to get frostbite?
Yeah. Roll for your toes.
I can lose my toes. There's other things I can't lose.
Trigger finger. Right.
Exactly.
Right?
Just like the movie Sniper with Tom Berenger.
Oh, God. I was trying to watch a movie with Tom Berenger the other day. I was trying to find Eddie and the Cruisers, and I couldn't find it anywhere to watch it. I was so pissed. I was very bored. I was like, man, I'm going to watch Eddie and the Cruisers. Damn, I can't find it.
I want to see that movie Rust. When they coming out with that?
Rust. What am I...
That was that old Western where the shooting took place, and
it's familiar. Like the name is the Baldwin, when Baldwin shot.
Yeah.
Oh, did they even finish? Did they just scrap it when that happened?
I don't know, actually. I'm not sure what happened to it. It's kind of horrible, that situation.
Yeah. He got indicted for that, which is kind of strange.
I think that most of those charges are going to be dropped.
Yeah, he just pled not guilty. And that's kind of fucked up, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
you can't blame it on him,
Yeah, he's supposed to check... He's just an actor. They give you a gun and say there's duds in there. I mean, they say point it here and fire. I mean, it's just weird that you would... The armorer is the person who should get indicted, if anybody.
Right.
It's just an accident, terrible accident. I mean,
well, they claim he was pointing it at someone, and he never pointed at someone. But again, it's the armorer and the chain of custody. That's the real person that would get in trouble.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, if you say point it this way for the so that you get the shot you want, I mean, just do it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that might be part of the argument. Yeah, it's like wouldn't the director and the and the cinematographer being like, yeah, we want you aiming it right at the camera at this shot,
Yeah.
That's kind of...
Hey, I'm back, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. We're all taking a break. It's cool.
I think him having that, like, I know he wanted to say what was going on, and he really wanted to speak his mind and tell the truth about what happened when he did that interview, and it probably hurt him.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but yeah, it's just a weird situation, right? It's like it reminds me of The Crow, if you remember that, right?
Yeah, they brought up that too, all about that same situation. And I think they found like 6 other live rounds or something mixed in with all the bullets.
It's so stupid. They didn't really today. They don't even need real guns. You know,
Yeah.
just give them a fake gun and then do it in CGI. And I mean, what is it? Why do you have to have like a blank in there that
Yeah, exactly. I was reading about that too. The whole thing is like a lot of directors, they want the realism of the, because a gun will be like loud and it makes you squint and it,
Right.
but you can act those things. These are
Plus,
good
you can
actors.
make noise. Like you can, I don't know. You can have like something in there that just makes noise instead of discharge. Don't they discharge like a shell still or something? Like those blanks? I don't know.
Yeah.
They do. Blanks are very different than ones that have rounds in them. They're crimped at the end, and they do eject out of the chamber.
Yeah.
We'll see if they'll finish that movie.
I find it highly unlikely.
Oh, it's still on track to be completed.
Really? It's probably in post-production or something.
Lead role. I wonder when this came out, though.
I should turn off my snow.
Yeah, we've got real snow here at the moment.
Yeah. It was pretty warm.
We were in a meeting today with some people in Brazil, and they were looking at the snow outside. And we were going, "How cold is it?" And we go, "Oh, it's not cold, just around freezing." And they were just like, "Oh, it's too much."
Really? It was like somebody posted a meme the other day, and it was somebody in Florida, and it was like 50-some degrees, and they're like, wear layers. I don't know if it was real or not, but it was like, wear layers.
Oh, it's true. I visited my friends in Jacksonville. They had a winter coat and gloves on, and I was in shorts.
Limit exposure to the outside, right?
Friend of mine from Scotland once visited Dallas during a rare moment when snow hit Dallas, and he tried. There was like about half an inch of snow on the ground, and he just went to go out for a walk from his hotel, and the concierge came rushing out from behind the desk and went, "Sir, in all honesty, I cannot, in all conscience, let you go out there." It's just like,
yeah,
this isn't life-threatening. It's okay. It's extreme weather, so you can't go out there.
I mean, if you're next to somebody driving a car, it's probably true. In Dallas.
Yeah, it's probably true. Yeah.
Slipper, you back? Okay.
Who are we waiting for?
You.
I'll be there in a minute.
Okay.
No, I'm here.
Just say, but if you're talking.
I figured you had like a
Flush.
mobile head, but yeah, right. The old bow. Yeah.
Yeah, Bo.
Please hold for Lena.
Right.
Your wait time is approximately.
All right.
The good thing is she does value our call.
All right. So you so what are you gonna do with the Jeep? Are you just gonna try to hide it somehow, or are you gonna?
Yeah, I think try and get it under some cover if we can.
Yeah, I think that's probably doable.
Throw a tarp over it. Throw some branches over it.
Yeah, you can throw it.
Yeah.
You can get it covered. Yeah, Satar, you go ahead.
Do something to mark the spot as well, just so we can
That's fine. Yeah.
find it, even if there's heavier snow.
Yeah.
Camouflage it. Should I roll the camouflage again?
No, you don't need to for this.
Okay.
So, you head on along the path, so Taj, you know that you have probably another good 8 hours before you hit the Bhutan border, and then you have another probably day and a half to get there. So you walk out through the day, and you know it's just you're struggling through this snow, which has been quite challenging. Everything's covered. You probably have, I don't know if you would have snowshoes exactly, but enough to get through. But it's quite challenging, and I would like everyone to make a roll. For everybody except Frank, it's going to be a difficulty 1. But for Frank, it's going to be a difficulty 2. And this is, I would like you to make a brawn and fortitude. Let me see, is that right? Yeah, that's what I want. So if you have fortitude, that's cool. Otherwise, it's a resilience brawn check. Difficulty 1.
So I just need to click on resilience and it'll automatically put brawn on there?
Yep. Well, you click resilience, and then there's a drop down to the left, and you pick brawn.
I do have this talent.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, you want it to be fortitude or resilience?
Well, fortitude is a focus of resilience. So if you have fortitude, cool. If not, so basically, if I pick out a focus and I say roll fortitude, for instance, and you click on fortitude, it's going to bring up resilience with no check mark on focus because you don't have it. Or you do have it, right? So I'm just saying that, so if you have resilience, you pick the right focus and just go. So I'll try to specify what skill it's under as well. So click resilience or fortitude, and then select brawn from the drop down.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Rogue.
It's just called. It's under resilience. It's a stiff drink.
Yeah.
It helps you. Let's see. Catch bread. It's to remove stress, actually. So that would be something.
Yeah,
I think
that's not.
after
Yeah, that's.
If I fail, right?
Well, if you get stress, so stress is actually your hit points, right? So. Zephyr generated 1 momentum.
Resilience and brawn.
You can use momentum for an extra dice. After this scene, you're going to lose 1 momentum regardless.
Let me use 1 momentum.
Okay, so now you're going to roll 3 dice instead of 2 dice.
Okay.
Alright. So, complication.
Damn.
So I'm going to take...
That's what that third dice.
Yeah, so if you rolled a 20. So let me verify how... I'm just going to... Okay, so what I was going to do is I'm going to give you 1 fatigue. And since you rolled a complication, I'm going to give you 2 fatigue. Or take 2... Let me see how that works. Fatigue. 42. So when you suffer fatigue, so you had 0 before, now you have 2. So you have 2 fatigue, so your total stress is now 7 out of 7, not 9 out of 9, until you're able to remove it. And you'll have the opportunity when you sleep tonight, but we'll see.
Now, can I use the stiff drink to gain a...
No. You don't lose stress, you lose maximum stress. So your top level stress is now 7, not 9. You didn't lose like some stress. You can do a stiff drink when you lose stress. This is you lost maximum stress.
Yeah.
So until that's fixed. You did generate 1 momentum. Somebody got difficulty 2. Yeah, so Zephyr, that was you. So you generated 1 momentum. Yeah, so how does it look for Frank as he is really, 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 really struggling?
Yeah, so Frank is probably fallen behind. Probably the last one, definitely. And struggling through the snow, falling over at some point, picking himself back up. God damn it. Need a fucking cigarette. And and he'll be telling everybody, "Oh, I'm fine. Just Need to get somewhere warm. Hey, are we almost there? Sartaj?
The city boy does not like the outside, I see.
Mr. Frank, we have a long way to go. Maybe I can help you carry your backpack a little while to give you a breather. But we cannot stop. We are now out in the open. We must make time. The snow is definitely getting us slowing down. But we must keep on. We must keep on.
Yeah, I'll make it. Don't worry about me.
Well, perhaps we can share a little of your load between us. Take a few things out of that pack and give a couple to each of us. Well, and then he sort of pauses and he kind of like glances in Lena's direction, trying to work out if he should say, "Oh, but not the lady." And then he decides better
she's
not.
She's lugging this huge pack of tools.
Right.
Like she looks like she's almost as loaded down as Sartaj, but she's like engineered like basically Heward's handy haversack, where everything's got a place and it's perfectly balanced and
right.
Like a real modern camping backpack,
In that case, he'll realize that she's already carrying a hell of a lot, and any more will kind of unbalance that load. So he sort of says, well, perhaps Luke and I can share a few things. Sartaj is already carrying a lot, and well, I think we wouldn't want to ruin the symmetry of that pack, would we? And he's kind of looking at the very elaborately packed backpack.
I'm afraid I don't have a spot for anything else.
It is okay. The lady's constitution may be a little bit weaker than ours. I will take her share of the load.
She scoffs.
I'll be fine, God damn it. Nobody needs to take my load.
That's what she said.
It is okay. I assure you we can all share the load of yours. It is nothing out of the ordinary.
Next week on Smut in the Himalayas.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not Sam, okay, guys.
You finish. You probably. Yeah, it's hard to know. So Todd, you look down at the map. You are making good time. You think you're not slower than you would have expected, even though of the snow, and you can make camp as it's pretty quick. The sun starting to fall behind the mountains, and it's getting very cold. So you're gonna wanna get some shelter. You probably have like small tents or something.
Yeah. I guess we'll...
Yeah, Sartaj, he's kind of trudging along ahead of you. Sometimes when you kind of go around a bend, as you guys kind of come around the bend, you see Sartaj is almost like 100, 200 yards ahead, and then he kind of turns back, realizes you guys are slow, and then he slows himself down and kind of waits for you guys to catch up. And this kind of goes on and on and on, eventually we get to a spot where Sartaj kind of looks around and looks back at you, and if only you guys could see your faces. He's like, they are tired, Dad. I cannot do this to them. I cannot. And he looks around and says, we shall camp here for the evening. Take a load off your shoulders, Mr. Frank. Just relax over here while I set up camp. Please, do not smoke any more cigarettes. This is not going to be good for you.
Oh, thank God.
I will make you some rich tea with some herbs, and maybe that will help you and keep you all warm for this evening. But please take rest. Sit down.
And Frank's thinking, you know, it would warm me up, a good cigarette.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you have anything specific to roleplay, we can do that. I don't want to do travel roleplay the entire time, so what we'll do is we'll make your fatigue rolls for the next day. And Frank, this will be a difficulty 1 for you this time. So why don't everybody, and you can use momentum too if you want. So everybody go ahead and make me the brawn fortitude roll again. Yep.
Before that,
Yes,
could I roll
absolutely.
maybe survival? Survival.
Yes, you could do something like that. Let's see.
Like orienteering. I could maybe try and find, looking at how things are going and people are having great difficulty. Maybe roll a survival with orienteering based on the next day's forecast and find a potentially easier path.
Yeah, do that. That's a great idea. Do that. We'll say it's a difficulty 2 because of the snow.
Is that something I could assist in, or is this element or climate?
You can.
I would assist him because he's...
So the way this works, so assist works is you're going to roll 1d20. So let's do yours first, Luke. So if you want to do an orienteering roll as well, because you've looked over the maps, so you can do that. When you click orienteering, it'll ask you, you see how many dice that it's saying highlighted. Mm-hmm. Click 1. And then this would be probably insight. And then, so this is how this works. So that's a success. So Sartaj is going to have an extra success built in. So your difficulty is 2, Sartaj. And then you get 1 success for free.
Okay, and then I have a talent called Tracker, which is my first bonus D20 is free.
Okay, then so you're going to roll 3 dice.
3 dice.
Is it on tracking or is it on any survival skill? How's it?
That's a good question. 1 minute. It says any survival.
Okay, cool. So you're going to roll 3 dice.
Yep. So.
And then you're going to use insight.
Insight. Okay, insight, 3 dice. Okay, focus.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So that's very good.
Nice.
So that's a total of 5 successes versus difficulty 2. So you generate 3 momentum.
Nice.
I will. So here's what I'm going to allow you to do. So you generated 3 momentum. You can either spend that momentum, or you can, for 1 success, you don't have to make a fatigue roll. Or you get to pick who doesn't make a fatigue roll. For every success you generated above the difficulty, you can pick someone else. So they won't have to make one either. Or you can take the momentum. But you don't have to make one, or someone doesn't have to make it.
Okay, so since I generated 5 successes...
Yep, so you generated 3 momentum. So that's a total of 4 people that wouldn't have to make the roll.
Yeah, so I look around and I'll... Frank definitely shouldn't be making a roll.
I'm fine.
And I would say just given that Luke was helping me, I look at Luke and say, I do not think that Mr. Frank can take much more of this, and Madam Lena seems to be already carrying a much heavy load on her back, and I wish to have Master George as spiff and spry as possible for the meet. I think I can take some of their load and help them navigate an easier path, but you will have to bring the rear and keep an eye out when they straggle. Do you think you can do that, Mr. Luke?
I think I can do that. This weather may not be something I'm familiar with, but I know how to read a map, and I can see what ridge lines to keep on to lessen the burden that the weaker members of the party, but I would be more than happy to bring up the rear and ensure we do not get too strung out.
Very well, very well. And I will tie a rope between the three of us so that they do not get lost in the snow as we climb. And you keep an eye on us in case someone is veering off the track, then you can keep them in line.
It will be just like herding the animals back in the prairies.
Interesting, prairies. Maybe one day I can go to this place you speak of.
It is much different in here, but I think you would like it. It is like someone is always stepping on your chest. It is so humid. Where here it is simply like being stabbed in the lungs with an icy knife.
Yes. It is exactly like that. Come, let us wake the rest and make our way.
So, which one of you are going to make the resistance roll today?
It's going to be Luke.
Okay, Luke. So you go ahead and make the brawn fortitude resistance roll, and you can use momentum if you want. You don't have to.
Brawn, 2 dice, and resilience.
That's right. You're pretty good at that.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yep, you generate 1 momentum. So yeah, nobody's tired the next day. So kind of explain how you, Sartaj and Luke, you help everyone kind of keep up and not get any more tired than they already are through the next day of travel as you head into Bhutan.
One thing you'll notice, Sartaj, is that Georgia, if you've had sort of breathers and a chance to talk, probably in the evenings, has been asking you about what you know about the temple where you're supposed to meet this guy, this old obscure Buddhist temple, and he's been asking if there were any unusual history there, anything special about the place. And yeah, he seems to be showing quite an interest in this location, not just the person you're going to meet, because you don't know a lot about that person, but the location certainly.
Yeah, so Taj is just to fill you in, Zypher. He actually, when you got this map and were told there was a Buddhist temple there, you were quite oblivious that there was a temple there. This is you've been around this area some, but you find no records of a temple where you're going. You have no idea that there's a temple there. Someone tells you there, you might say, okay, sure, but you've never heard that there's a temple there.
Yeah, so when the evenings when George and Sartaj talk, Sartaj responds, it is curious, Mr. George, it is curious. I know this place. I have traveled these lands, but as you can see, these lands are vast, and I cannot say I have traveled every stream and every gully and every ridgeline. But it is still curious to me that a Buddhist temple, which is in these parts when temples are scarce, there would be some knowledge of it among the locals, and there is no such knowledge that I can recall or from just local gossip and talk and stories. But then again, it could be just a new temple, or maybe it's such a small temple that only the very locals around it know about it. It is curious, though. It is curious.
I rather got the impression that if anything, it would be perhaps abandoned, rather old. Any legends you've heard of in this area? Old stories? Maybe of old lost places and things.
There are many such stories, but across the border, it gets very very murky. We do not know what is tall tales versus legend and and tales of religious importance. Um, it is. I cannot say. There is something about this expedition to this remote temple across the border in itself is very curious. Some would say a little unnerving, but seeing you and your companions, um, I feel safe. They seem to be know what the business is about. But I would be wary, Mr. George. I would just be a little wary.
Well, always. And George smiles, and that's a little bit like the old George. But I think Sartaj has realised in the past few years, George is a little bit more. He was always very kind of, open and friendly and a little bit naive. Now there's some. He's kind of a bit like that on the surface, but there's obviously something more guarded about him underneath. He's got secrets these days, and Sartaj can probably knows him well enough to see the difference. He sort of smiles and says, "Well, ours not to reason why, Sartaj. Ours not to reason why. Thank you. I suppose we'll find out when we get there, won't we?" And I rather do hope the stories of German agents are untrue. Or at least if they are on the track, then we're ahead of them. I think we've made good ground, right?
Yes, we have made good ground today. Your companion, Mr. Luke, is very skilled. I am glad he is with us on this trip. And so are you, Mr. George. But Mr. Frank seems to be a little lost in these parts.
Well, he's a city dweller, Sartaj. New York City is a very different place to this. But he has his uses. I understand he's a very, very skilled, at putting 2 and 2 together and making 4, shall we say. And George sort of smiled. But as he looked...
In the background, George is fucking... I think I fucking lost my toe.
As they're going up the mountain and, Luke sees Frank kind of, falling behind. Maybe he'll go up to him, pulls out a little flask, the old steel flask. Perhaps give you a pull of this if you allow me to carry some of this for you for a while. And he kind of motions to maybe some of his gear. It is only fair, yeah?
Oh, damn. Well, if you're going to twist my arm like that, I guess. And he'll be friendly, though, to him, definitely. Pat his shoulder when he takes the flask.
And as, he keeps true to his word, and as he helps Frank along, maybe later in the day, he goes up to Lena, and he's like, mein Humscher junger Dame, perhaps I can carry that bag of tools for you for a while?
She actually looks fine, but she shrugs and a little smirk crosses her face, and she says, how gentlemanly of you to ask. And she shrugs part of the backpack off. She keeps another part to herself that is obviously kind of well padded, but she hands him the bulk of it, and you pick it up, and it is heavy as fuck. You're like,
Luke, of course, plays it off as like it's nothing.
Carrying that?
He's impressed. He's like, very, very impressive, Fraulein.
Yes, it is. What she says. Let me position it, adjust the straps. It will make it a little easier for you. And she'll, loosen the straps so that he can fit it around his larger frame. And it actually doesn't feel too bad once you have it on.
Well, thank you. It is always good to share the load on a trip like this.
Well, if you need me to take a turn with yours, you let me know.
C'est only fair, yes. But I shall be okay.
So she enjoys just walking around with a very, very light pack for a while.
Yeah, Frank does too.
Luke grumbles to himself for the remainder of the journey.
Why did I ask?
Yeah.
Luke fella, all right.
George will say to him at some point, well, that's frightfully chivalrous of you, old boy. I hope they appreciate it. And doesn't offer to.
All right. So the rest of the day you camp and again and take off, and Sartaj, you know you're deep in Bhutan now, and eventually you get kind of to this clearing where you look down, and you look down on this temple. You do see it, and let me switch the screen. Switch this puppy. This is not the angle you would see it at, but you're kind of on a ledge a bit, looking down at this old-looking temple. It has let's see. Let me see here. This is probably only for Sartaj. Let's see. What could you roll? Yeah. How about Academia? Insight Academia difficulty 2.
I have a lot of that as well, so I don't know if it's something that would be completely out of my expertise. That's fine.
I think this would. I think it would be.
Okay. Not to razzle dazzle.
Yep.
But could I potentially try mysticism?
Yes.
As opposed to
yes.
It's in the survival. So the idea is, let me put it this way. It is a Buddhist temple, so at least Sartaj would know how to approach the temple, what the customs are at least about this place, so that to make sure that the outsiders to this land do not offend anyone or do something that would be offensive to anybody watching, if somebody's watching.
Yeah, sure.
Frank is going to be like trying to take a picture. Would he stop? Would Sartaj be pissed about that or anything?
No, not yet. So I think while you're trying to get your camera ready, Sartaj is kind of looking around. Sartaj would definitely be very surprised to see this place. And then, and just like George said, it is pretty old, and it clearly has a lot of markings and definitely seems to have been there for a while. So he's kind of concerned at the same time that a place like this would be unknown to him. So mysticism.
Yeah. We'll say difficulty 2.
With insight, correct?
Yes, and you can spend momentum if you would like. Still.
Oh yeah, I'll spend momentum. We have 4 in the thing, so I'll use 1 to make it 3.
Got it. Yep, so that's a success. And let me. How do I whisper on? Just kind of curious. Is there a whisper command?
There's gotta be.
Yeah. Test. There we go.
Yeah, backslash W.
We did it.
Space.
Yeah. Oh crap. Hold on. All right. Let me type this up real quick.
How did you guys put your name next to your like slip? You put Lena in parentheses there.
Magic. I don't remember. Probably off the PC sheet. No.
Yeah, I was looking for that. I'm like,
I have no idea.
Maybe
think you
Ted
can
set it up
click
for
on
all
your
of us
name.
except. Maybe Ted set it up for all of us except you.
I think
Yeah.
that's all you guys. You did it.
I think you have to click on your name down there, like under players. Just the list of players. If I left click it.
So you can do.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Did you figure it out?
No, that's not doing it for me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I whispered to him so he can.
Weird.
So Sartaj kind of, as he's kind of looking around, he sees like Frank pull out his camera and he says, "Mr. Frank, I would be careful. This place does not seem. This does not seem like an ordinary temple. Yeah, it is very strange indeed. Very strange. You see this gong. The markings are not like anything I've seen. It is not in my language, and I do know the language of this country of Bhutan, while I cannot speak it or I cannot read it, but I at least know the script, and the script does not match this land. And there are markings on the building, which is also very strange. Buildings like Buddhist temples like this do not have such markings. And it is not a Buddhist temple. It is a strange. I do not know if this is a temple even. What is this? What is this?
George kind of clears his throat and says, well, whatever kind of temple it is, I should be stepping inside and seeing if I can meet my contact. It looks like quite a small building in the picture, Tet, is that right?
It's deep, right? But it's not huge. But it's you get you got more of a view from like kind of like above and to the side, and it's a bit deeper than this, right? But it's wide like this and deep. You can't tell. It would only be one floor above ground at the very least.
Okay. George says, well, we should probably step inside out of the snow, and then I'm afraid I'll have to, go and meet my contact by myself. You know how it is. And I'll be sure to shout if I see any Jerrys. And he smiles.
Well, hold on there. Can Frank look around and see if there's any footprints leading up to this place or anything like that, or if it looks like it's been...
Are you going... Where are you guys at? Are you going down to the temple? Are you staying kind of... You're kind of probably 50 feet away on a ledge looking down, and you see there's a way down there, but you just have to tell me if you guys are getting close, what you're going to do, where you guys are going to set up.
Yeah, I think I'll start sneaking closer unless anyone stops me. But Frank said hold on, so I'll wait a minute for him.
Are you sure you want to go down there by yourself?
It seems like some backup might be wise.
Especially if there's any soldiers around here.
Well, true. Perhaps I think we should all go inside at least. It's just that my instructions are when I actually meet my contact, I should do it alone. Actually, stepping, I shouldn't leave you out here in the cold. Seems rather callous.
Ted, how far did you say is from the ledge
about
we're
50,
at down to the
feet.
entrance? 50 feet?
Mm-hmm.
If you do not mind, perhaps I will stay on this ledge and provide a little bit of overwatch to make sure no one sneaks in after you.
Well, thank you. That would be greatly appreciated. Do yell out if you see anything.
Oh, you shall know.
I should like to get a better look at some of the symbols that are on the front, as though I will not into the building until you say so.
Well, I think we could probably all enter. I think the building's large enough that I could meet my contact in private without you all having to stand in the snow. But if you prefer to stand outside and study the history of the place, then of course, please do.
May I make a suggestion, Mr. George? Why don't you go inside with Mr. Luke and Mr. Frank, while I and Madame Lena continue to study this temple and these markings and carvings?
Well, I believe Mr. Luke is planning to stay here and keep watch, but I'd appreciate Mr. Frank's company. And he nods towards Frank.
As much as I would like to get in out of the cold, I believe it would be a good idea for me to provide some overwatch for all of you from up above. If I see anything, you will be hearing me scream Das ist ein schreckliche Idee very loudly.
And George inclines his head. And says, well, we should be going. And he starts slowly making his way down towards this temple.
Frank, did you want to look for footprints and things like that?
Yeah, I want to see if there's like anybody's been here before.
Yeah, go ahead and give me a observation site. Sounds good. So that is on your sheet. If you just click site, that will pop up, and then you're going to do insight with that.
Yeah.
And that was difficulty
Nice.
1. Oh, yes. Wow.
Oh,
Generated
my
3
goodness.
momentum. Now, there's something in this this system you can do after you make a roll like that. This is basically the action gather information or something like that, and you can spend momentum to get more and more and more information. So it was a difficulty 1, so you generated 3 momentum, so you can spend any amount of that momentum to gather more information and more details about what you're going to see. So you can tell me you want to spend no more, or all of them, or somewhere in between.
Yeah, I'd like to spend 2,
Okay.
I think.
So you generated 1 momentum then. That counts. So I'm going to whisper to you real quick.
Yeah, Frank took a couple of pictures of the place. I think he stopped when Sartaj was, started talking about, be careful, and him not knowing anything. I think the pictures would focus on like just the outside of it and around it, and now he's got all of that away, put back in his pack. He's being careful as they're kind of going up, and he says, as he's looking down in the snow as they're kind of approaching, he says, I see footprints. Somebody's here.
George freezes and it just stops on the spot and slowly pulls out a pistol, just staring at the place.
He's like, this is weird.
What do you mean weird? Germans? How many?
The footprints, there's somebody's barefoot in the snow.
Barefoot in the snow?
And as he looks up towards the temple, he's like, there's a light on inside there. Some kind of light.
Yeah, as he points it out, you can see it vaguely in there somewhere, which might or might not be surprising, but...
What is this? This looks like some red drops in the snow here. And he starts to point to them. Is that blood?
Look down. What do we think?
Could be.
This could be blood.
Walks barefoot through the snow. George is putting about a quarter of his attention on the footprints and 3/4 on the building. He said, we need to take this cautiously. And George is going to kind of sneak up to the entrance here and just kind of take up position next to the door.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of beckon the others over. And he's going to try and kind of signal to Luke. He's kind of going to make kind of stepping motions to the snow and then indicate, kind of point down at where they saw the other tracks and kind of point to the kind of direction of those tracks. He won't be able to convey how unusual they are, but he'll at least indicate to Luke what they're concerned about, that there are tracks here.
Luke sees the signal and, kind of nods, understanding that there's tracks, though obviously he wouldn't know the nature of them, and just kind of increases the, range of his scanning as he looks about for whatever company they may or may not have.
He probably does notice Frank pulls out his Enfield, his pistol, and starts to kind of sneak up there too.
Is gonna follow at a slower pace the others, and she's listening to them, but she's also looking specifically for markings and symbols. And Sartaj knows from past experience her interest in the occult, which is probably why he suggested they look together.
Frank and George kind of creep up to the door, while Sartaj and Lena kind of stay in the, I don't know if you want to call it the front garden area, looking around at some of the markings. And there are markings on some of these stone tablets. They're not tablets, but they're stone pillars that, as you kind of give them a once over, they appear to be broken, but broken in a fairly flat and symmetrical way, where it doesn't appear like it's been cracked, naturally. It's almost like they've been sawed off, maybe. Hard to tell. And Luke is kind of on the ridge there, kind of watching everything. He doesn't see anybody else besides his compatriots down there next to the temple. And since it's 11 o'clock my time, and now it's getting kind of late Eastern and Central, we'll stop there for today and continue on next time.
Awesome. I thought that went really well today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to give kind of everybody kind of gradual kind of working through the roles and stuff as we kind of move forward. And yeah.
Like it.
Nice, thank you.